Hey, what's up you guys, the Curious Owl here, and today I'm going to be reviewing Dangerous Deception by Garcia and Margaret Stohl. This is the final book in the duology spin-off series from the main series by Garcia and Margaret Stohl, Beautiful Creatures. So as you guys know, over the course of 2018, I have been doing a reread series of the Beautiful Creatures books because when I was in high school, I read the first 4 main series books, and afterwards did not know about any other novellas or spin-off novels that were made of it until fairly recently. So because of that, I wanted to do a reread series following my reread series of the Harry Potter series with the Beautiful Creatures series, as it was one of my most favorite series of all time in high school. It was really kind of what got me into reading urban fantasy as I was in high school and getting me into more YA-based things. You guys can go check out all the other reviews I have done for this series on my channel. And I have to say, unfortunately, for being the last book that I have read for this entire world, it was not the best of the bunch. It was honestly probably the worst book out of the entire group, where most of the books were between 4 to 5 stars. This was a 3-star book for me, which was really hard, honestly, for me to say because I love this series so much, this entire world. But there were a lot of things about this book in particular I was not okay with, especially in terms of the ending of the story, and I just could not come away from this book feeling completely satisfied. So please be advised that if you have not read Dangerous Creatures, which is the first book in this duology, there is a lot of spoilers about this story in particular, so if you want to be able to go read the book for yourself, please feel free to, or read the duology for yourself, please feel free to, and move away from this video because this is going to go into some spoilery content dealing with Dangerous Creatures, as this book basically takes right off after the events of the first book in the duology. So following the events of Dangerous Creatures, Ridley Kanye goes missing after her car that she is with Link in explodes and supposedly is either thought dead or just missing, but nobody has any clear idea as to where she is. And so it is up to Link and his gang of friends that he's made throughout the course of Dangerous Creatures to go find her. And then also there is a character of Nox, or known as Lennox Gates, who is also going after her. In Dangerous Creatures, we find out that Lennox actually was bringing Ridley and Link to Abraham Ravenwood's great-grandson Silas to enact revenge on them for the death of Abraham Ravenwood, which was done in the main series of Beautiful Creatures. But because of Lennox's feelings towards Ridley, which are completely romantic, he feels that he is responsible for her demise and anything that might happen to her in the future. So he sets off on his own to find her and hopefully get her to safety and even possibly sacrifice himself if it comes to that. That's pretty much the entire plot of the story, which is part of the reason why I don't think I like this book as much as I wanted to. I feel like when it comes to the other Beautiful Creatures books within this entire series, even the novellas, there is a point to learning about why this is happening to the main characters of the story. I just felt like all of the story that was in this second installment of the duology could have easily been condensed and placed into the first book to make it a standalone, because pretty much everything happens right after the first book, and everything that happens in that second book could have easily been combined with the first one to make it a longer novel and kind of be a better tie to the entire world. Along with the fact that this is a duology series, I felt like the second book more so did not have a clear tie ending to the rest of the novellas that happen later on. So the structure of this world is basically, in the timeline sense, there are 4 prequel novellas that are not exactly prequel. They are prequel and also after stories from the main series. They're kind of split up between because they happen after the 4th and final book in the series, but they jump back in time to explain things about certain characters and certain things that happened in the main series as to why things happened the way they did in the main series, if that makes sense. So after the prequel slash not prequel novellas, there is the main series, which is Beautiful Creatures, Beautiful Darkness, Beautiful Chaos, and Beautiful Redemption. Between Beautiful Darkness and Beautiful Chaos, there is a small novella dealing with Link as he becomes an incubus, and then after the 4th book in the series, there is another novella that takes off just after the events of Beautiful Redemption, which is essentially kind of a way for us as a reader to see that everyone is going off on their own adventures and things of that nature, and kind of just leads us off to believe that there is something else going to be happening later on that we might be able to see. Then after that novella is the duology series with Link and Ridley, Dangerous Creatures, and Dangerous Deception. Dangerous Deception, though, does not have a really clear tie to the prequel/not prequel novellas. This is a huge reason why I did not care for this book. I felt like the overall structure of this duology did not lend itself to giving enough information as to how the ending of Dangerous Deception ties to the first of the prequel/not prequel novellas. The novellas themselves really delve into kind of this idea that Ethan's father is getting remarried, and each of the 4 novellas delves into different aspects of time before the wedding, with the final novella, A Gatlin Wedding, being the actual day before the wedding when they are inviting a bunch of people from the town to see the bride and the groom, and there's this big battle that happens there, and it's a final battle. But there's a lot of things about what happens in that novella that does not necessarily tie a lot to what happens in Dangerous Deception. My biggest gripe here is that the ending of Dangerous Deception felt very unsatisfactory. I don't feel like there was ever really a clear tie to the novellas in a way that made sense, to where we see things happening in A Gatlin Wedding and there being, oh, this kind of recognition of, oh yeah, that makes sense, this is what happened after Dangerous Deception. Like, I just felt like the way that the ending was a little unsatisfactory, and I would have liked to have seen a little bit more to be able to understand how Link gets to be able to go to the wedding in the first place, and then how Ridley and Lennox end up and all these different things, and where Link's bandmates end up in the course of the wedding itself. As far as consistency within the entire world, there was consistency with the language of the story, there was consistency with the magic system, and actually this duology delved into a lot more darker things that happened after the events of the main series, which I greatly appreciated. And I felt like the overall world that was being built here was still really consistent. I still really enjoyed it. I loved being back in the Castor Tunnels, as we spent a lot of time there. It was still enjoyable to read for the most part, but again, I think that just because I understood that the structure was not where I wanted it to be, it made it a little harder for me to really fully enjoy it, which is why it is now my least favorite of the Beautiful Creatures world. And I'm really disappointed by it because I thought that the final book in this entire world would have been the best one, but it really wasn't, and I was really upset by that. But despite that, I still love this entire series as a whole because it is still something that I think not only brings some nostalgia for me, but does really make me understand a lot of why the YA urban fantasy part of writing has exploded the way it has, because it's been such an amazing ride of learning about the Castor world that is hidden within our world and things of that nature, and learning how Castors and other dark supernatural creatures interact within our world and with humans and things of that nature. I think though that the main series does have a special place in my heart because I love Ethan and Lena's story so much. It is one that I think I will always hold nearest and dearest to my heart because I really loved the progression of their relationship, and I loved the progression of Ethan's understanding of himself and his place in the world. I think that that really just made things really nice for me when it came to rereading the series, was seeing that progression again and understanding more so now than I did in high school what exactly was going on. And I hate to say that, you know, this book in particular did not make me feel as happy towards the end of it, but I am glad that I finally was able to finish off reading all of the books throughout this entire world, and that, you know, I did realize that throughout this, that not every book is the best I've ever read. It's definitely important for me to realize that there are some things that I need to be aware of in terms of my reading experience that affects the way that I read, and that, you know, affects the way that a story is built. And I just felt like this duology just did not live up to that, and that's okay. So thank you guys so much for joining me in this review of Dangerous Deception. I know it really wasn't much, but I didn't have many thoughts other than negative ones, unfortunately. I didn't think it was my favorite. Like I said, I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars because it was still enjoyable to read for the most part, but I really could not get past the ending of this story, nor could I get past the fact that it could have just been added on to the first book of this duology and just have it be a standalone. I think that it would have just made a lot more sense to do something like that. But let me know your guys' thoughts down in the comments below if you have read this book or this series or this world and what your thoughts were on it, because I'd love to know what other people thought of it, as I just don't feel like I have the popular opinion. I feel like it's possible that I have actually the most unpopular opinion when it comes to it, considering that I'm such a big fan of it. But I'd like to know what you guys think. So thank you guys so much for joining me in this video. If you guys did enjoy it, please do give it a big thumbs up. And if you're not already and you'd like to be, hit the button down below and subscribe to become an owlet in our flock. And I will see all of you guys in my next video. Bye guys.